The rooftop sniper who executed Charlie Kirk.
It was 12:23 p.m. on a deceptively ordinary Wednesday. Phone clips from that day show a crowd of 3,000 buzzing with energy under a brilliant September sky on the campus of Utah Valley University. They were there for a political showdown with one of America's most polarizing figures, Charlie Kirk. He was at the center of it all, commanding the stage, relishing the kind of fiery debate that had become his trademark. Then, a single whip-crack sound shattered the afternoon. The videos would later capture the horrifying moment, the collective gasp, the confusion, and the sheer panic. It all happened in less than a second, but it was the bloody conclusion to a plan years in the making. In that one horrific moment, a political career built on challenging the establishment was obliterated by a single, perfectly aimed bullet. The shot came from a ghost on a rooftop, a shadowy figure who would vanish without a trace, leaving behind a nation paralyzed by shock and a trail of haunting, cryptic clues. This is the story of the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the desperate, nationwide manhunt that followed. The man and the movement. To understand the seismic shock of September 10th, 2025, you have to understand the man at the center of the storm. Charlie Kirk was more than a commentator. He was a full-blown political phenomenon. His ascent was rapid. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA, which led to packed auditoriums and explosive campus debates that regularly went viral. He possessed a rare combative talent and a magnetic charisma that mobilized a generation of voters who felt alienated by the mainstream. Kirk was a dominant voice in the populist MAGA movement and widely seen as a key architect of Donald Trump's 2024 re-election. His influence was undeniable. He had redrawn the map of American conservative activism. At a September 11th remembrance event, a visibly shaken President Trump called Kirk a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions. This profound sense of loss wasn't just felt by his allies. Even those who fiercely opposed his every political stance had to recognize his staggering impact. Leaders from across the spectrum issued statements condemning the brutal act of political violence that had silenced such a prominent American voice. The event at Utah Valley University was the kickoff for a tour billed as the American Comeback. On his own social media channels just hours before, Kirk advertised one of his signature Prove Me Wrong debates. The event drew a massive crowd, a volatile mix of fervent supporters and passionate dissenters. It was the perfect stage for Charlie Kirk. It was also the place where his life would be violently extinguished. The crime scene. That one shot sent a shockwave of pure panic ripping through the crowd, sparking a chaotic stampede. In the midst of it all, first responders scrambled to reach Kirk, but the wound was catastrophic. He was pronounced dead shortly after, the victim of what authorities would immediately label a targeted political assassination. As a swarm of law enforcement descended on the campus, the first chilling pieces of the puzzle began to emerge. The shot was the work of a professional, incredibly precise, and fired from a staggering distance. All eyes turned to the rooftops of the university buildings that framed the courtyard. Investigators quickly zeroed in on the Losi Center, a building that offered a clear, unobstructed view of the stage. There, they found a sniper's nest, a hidden perch, meticulously chosen for the perfect kill shot. The campus was blanketed in security cameras, and they provided the first critical leads. The FBI later released footage that showed a lone figure on the roof of the Losi Center just moments after the shot rang out. The clip is chilling. The suspect moves with terrifying speed, scaling down the side of the building and dropping to the ground before melting into a nearby wooded area. From this grainy footage, a hauntingly generic description emerged. A young, college-aged male. He wore dark clothing, a black baseball cap, and a distinctive T-shirt with an American flag and an eagle. On his feet were a pair of Converse sneakers, a mundane detail that would soon become a crucial piece of forensic evidence. With that, the manhunt was officially on. A grim-faced Utah governor, Spencer Cox, announced the state would pursue the death penalty while the FBI put a $100,000 reward on the table for any information leading to an arrest. The ghost trail. The assassin had vanished like a phantom, but they weren't as clean as they believed. Forensic teams meticulously scoured every inch of the campus, uncovering the faint trail the killer had left behind. The first bombshell break was the weapon itself. Police recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle abandoned in the woods along the suspect's escape route. The choice of a bolt-action, a weapon that requires manual reloading after each shot, was a chilling psychological detail. It suggested a shooter with the supreme confidence they would only need one round. Next to the rifle, they found something even more disturbing: 3 unfired cartridges. Unconfirmed leaks from inside the investigation suggested strange, handwritten inscriptions on the casings. Early reports claimed the writing was of a radical political nature, though authorities have urged extreme caution, stressing the markings are still being analyzed. Back on the roof of the low-C center, the sniper's perch offered up more secrets. Faint shoe impressions appeared to match the Converse sneakers from the security footage. But more importantly, forensic teams recovered a partial palm print and a forearm print. A palm print contains an exponentially greater amount of detail than a fingerprint, dramatically increasing the odds of an ID. This was the killer's first major mistake. The digital manhunt, however, was a ghost town. As thousands of tips flooded FBI hotlines, a volume said to be second only to the Boston Marathon bombing, analysts frantically searched for any online manifesto or chatter. There was nothing. The shooter had planned this meticulously in the physical world, but had maintained absolute digital silence. The ideological motive. As a horrified nation struggled to process the assassination, a portrait of the killer began to form from the ideology that seemed to fuel the crime. While officials remained guarded, the FBI's working theory was that the suspect was a young man driven by a radical extremist ideology. The targeting of a conservative icon, the cold-blooded calculation of the attack, and the explosive rumors about the rifle's inscriptions all pointed to an act of extreme political opposition. President Trump, never one to mince words, immediately decried the shooting as an act of radical left political violence. This sentiment was echoed by legions of conservatives who saw the assassination as the horrifying endpoint of years of escalating political hatred. Across the country, emotional candlelit vigils sprang up, where supporters mourned a man they now saw as a martyr, murdered for daring to speak his mind. The case became an instant flashpoint in a nation already fractured by division. Social media became a toxic firestorm of enraged commentators and distraught citizens, blaming each other for the violence. On cable news, pundits shouted over each other in a vitriolic blame game. The murder of Charlie Kirk was no longer just a homicide. It was a symbol of a country that felt like it was at war with itself. The shooter, still nameless and on the run, had become the embodiment of the violent extremism that many feared was finally consuming America. The days since the shooting have bled into a frantic, nationwide search. The suspect remains a ghost, a grainy figure on a security camera, a specter who executed a flawless plan with chilling precision and then simply vanished. The investigation is moving at a furious pace, fueled by over 7,000 tips from the public. The evidence they clutch, a rifle, a palm print, and a few cryptic words scrawled on ammunition, are the only keys they have to unlock the identity of the ghost. Charlie Kirk's body was flown back to his home state of Arizona. His wife, Erica Kirk, was seen for a fleeting, heartbreaking moment, her face, as the president described, absolutely devastated. He leaves behind a legacy that is both celebrated and condemned, but his skill as a political force is something no one can deny. The assassination on the campus of Utah Valley University has left a deep, bleeding wound on the American psyche. It's a brutal reminder that in a world of hyper-partisanship and boiling-point rhetoric, the line between passionate debate and deadly violence can be terrifyingly thin. The hunt for the rooftop sniper is more than a quest for justice for one man. It's a desperate search for answers about the very soul of a nation. If you found this investigation compelling, subscribe for more deep dives into the events shaping our world. And if you have any information about this case, please contact the FBI immediately. The question that haunts us all is this: in a country this divided, how do we pull back from the brink before it's too late?